Welcome to the Real Bible Rob podcast, and I'm so delighted to have Leigh Larson with me today. And I was on her podcast last week, and she's on my podcast this week. And just a short intro here: that Leigh Larson is a Texan who lives in Montana, and she was raised by two divorced parents, and she fell in love with the outdoors through her small town East Texas dad and her passion for advocacy for women's health, and for her because of her mother as a nurse practitioner and a healthcare lobbyist in Fort Worth. That's saying a lot. She's graduated as a presidential scholar and a Jefferson scholar from the University of Texas. Hook 'em Horns in Austin with a BA in International Relations. She joined the U.S. Air Force Reserve Chaplain Corps candidate program while in seminary at Phillips Theological Seminary in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but left the faith and ministry for the financially lucrative software engineering field. Uh, and 7 years later, she wound up finishing her master's in theology and wrote her thesis, I think just very recently, defended it on Christian nationalism in the U.S. military chaplaincy, which is what we'll talk about mostly today, and is currently expanding the thesis into a book. She lives in Montana, where she works for herself as a web designer and producing social media content about American history, progressive theology, politics, and her travels. And she is a children's book author of three books about her dog, who was named Professor Huckleberry, and about his adventures in the national parks. Welcome, Leigh. I'm so delighted that you're here today, and thank you for joining us.
Howdy, Rob. Thank you, Pastor Rob. Thank you so much. And that description, it almost sounds like Mad Libs. Like you're just like sometimes I'm listening to it and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I should edit that. It sounds almost like, but thank you for having me. Howdy, and to his audience. Hello, folks.
Yeah, and just well, I just love your bio because it's just like you've been in all these interesting places and done all these interesting things and making a go of it. So, so glad that you're here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And of course, this topic of Christian nationalism and in the military is so important today. Um, because of where we talked a little bit about this before about the status of the military, about how Christian nationalism uses its imagery in order to really shape how things are going. And I think the work that you're doing, your thesis, your content is so relevant today.
Thank you.
So we'll just get right into it then and get started and just say, so what is Christian nationalism? Where does this theology come from? Is it only, we always think of it as conservative evangelical people and those kind of churches, but what is it?
Oh, that is a great question. Yes, well, Pastor Rob, and to his audience, absolutely. I wrote my master's thesis on Christian nationalism in U.S. military chaplaincy, as you said. I served in the military, the United States Air Force Reserve Chaplain Corps. I served as a candidate. I thought I was going to go totally into ministry, and then midway through seminary, left, as we said in the bio. But I did serve, and while I was in the service, I went through officer training and then I went through chaplain training. Within the chaplain training specifically, I saw and heard comments made by, you know, men, commanding officers that outranked me, who
Hmm.
were also chaplains, make comments about other people's faith, other chaplains, female
Uh-huh.
chaplains, queer chaplains. And so that's how I was introduced to what is going on in the military chaplaincy. And it
Mm.
wasn't really until I started looking into the rise of, wait, yeah, you brought up Christian nationalism, that started asking the same questions you are. Like, where's this coming from? What does this mean?
Uh-huh.
And it's really rooted in Christian nationalism. And what Christian nationalism does is it's a very specific theology It is in the conservative evangelical ballpark, but that is not shared by all conservative
Hmm.
evangelicals. Um, it really stems from the mid of the 20th century Rushduni,
Yeah.
um, feeling that society had collapsed, that
Yeah.
it was broken, and it was because they had strayed from God, and through that, society, i.e., the country, and
Hmm.
therefore the world, could be saved through Christian dominionism. That
Yeah.
if enough people just could understand that Christianity needs to be the bedrock for everything, laws, government, etc.,
Hmm.
we would not have the social ills that we have today. Um, this is not necessarily different than what any other claim that some
Yeah.
churches that have Christian, lots of churches and denominate faiths, religions claim that their way can solve social ills. This is a very militant, very narrow interpretation. It's very much stems from fundamentalism. Um, also has roots in Calvinism, so there's a predestination
Hmm.
component, particularly when it comes to social hierarchy or the economy. Meaning, if let's say if you are impoverished, well, like it's the system. You should have been able to fix it yourself just through Jesus. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh wow. There's a lot of um, paying attention that yes, the world needs to be saved actively through the law, through the courts, using a biblical interpretation of the law, which is called theonomy. This
Okay.
Pastor Rob differs from theocracy. So, what a
Okay.
theocracy is when your government, your head of state, is also the head of the church or the head of
Okay.
the
Oh,
religion.
okay.
So
Uh-huh.
the head shares both. A theonomy is maybe you keep a president and he's not also a
Oh,
bishop
okay. Well, that's an important
or
distinction, isn't it? Yeah.
and so you'll start to hear this workaround. Well, we're not a theocracy. Okay, so
Yeah.
they don't want to make President Trump into Pastor Trump. Okay, but they want they want revisions to the Constitution that say the
Yeah.
United States is a Christian country.
Hmm.
Um, they want a lot more biblical wording in our laws.
Yeah.
And it's just that's simply not what the United States was
Yeah.
built on. And again, it is coming from a conservative evangelical wing, but it is not all conservative
Hmm.
evangelicals. But it is dangerous because it's already got a significant following, and
Yeah.
it started really developed into militant theology. You start
Yeah.
seeing a lot of programs geared towards particularly homeschooling parents.
Yes.
Um, that create a narrative of serving the
Yeah.
country and how that is in line with God and Jesus, and that Jesus needs more warriors for Christ. That is an exegesis I would love to contend with, Um, that's I mean we're and again, like as you know, it's coming from the same Bible
Uh-huh.
we read. So well,
Well,
most
it's interesting that
sometimes
you mentioned Rushduni because yeah, he was, particularly um, troublesome character, right? But there were a number of offsprings from him, right? And I mentioned Francis Schaeffer in our last interview, and then there's so many other characters from that. I guess the question I have for about that is there's kind of like a charismatic part of this, and there's kind of a Calvinist fundamentalist part of it, and they don't always agree, but they seem to have the same similar mission. I wonder if you could when you're talking
well
about conservative evangelicals, define that a little bit better.
yeah, there's the Calvinist bit there, and then what's interesting is when we look at how this is playing out in the White House or in this presidential
Hmm.
administration, which we'll get to in a second, we're also seeing an interpretation of Catholicism. So
Yes. Yeah.
with J.D. Vance, so it's interesting
Hmm.
because that the evangelical Protestant and the Catholic, that's not historically a peaceful
No.
relationship.
I still think
So
it isn't, but they have a common purpose, right?
right now they're okay.
Yeah.
Like, but a thing once they start, because this is again, and we're seeing this when they start picking folks off, they get narrow pretty quick, right? Like
Hmm.
it's the marginalized that they all agree that it's the women and the queer and the people of color, and they've got all
Yeah.
the non-Christians first, and then they'll start going through
So
like,
they have their
oh.
common enemies, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're trying to get rid of us first, and then us. Like, and
Yeah.
then and then they'll hash it. But it is really interesting because I'm watching this. I'm like, this isn't gonna end well for you guys. Like, you're not friends.
No.
Um, but that's also, I mean, that's it's the problem, and was an argument for that a couple of noteworthy folks back in the early colonial history days made was that politics is ever changing, especially after
Yeah.
they established term limits and things in Congress, and they were, and for the president, they were like, with so much changing, like, I don't know that it's okay for a politician to be associated, like, to make a more
Yeah.
religious stance, because you would constantly having to adapt to the new
Hmm.
policy, and that's not really, I mean, and you know this, that as a pastor, you could tend to a lot of scripture and a lot of sermons without directly naming a contemporary political issue. I mean,
Yeah.
you can skirt
Right.
around it, but like you can
There's a
use
lot of
words to imply.
commonalities, yes.
Yeah. And so it's very, and so that was an argument, was no, politics changes too much, and the Bible, the church needs to be something stable. Like, it can't
Hmm.
just be and any changes that they do, should come from. And so it's an interesting dynamic when you bring religion into politics, because religions don't get along with one another.
No.
Theocracies, sects, they don't get along. And then politics is a lot of responding to public opinion. And
Yeah.
and that's not really the church's role. I mean, that's not to say they don't change over time based on things,
Yeah.
but um
At least they pretend that they don't.
right, right.
Right.
Yeah, but but yeah, so it's just they're just two different things, and then but I believe I may have gone off on a tangent.
Oh no,
So
that's I'm just thinking that there's uh, the subtext of religion's always in our politics. It's
yes.
always there. It's just especially in the United States, where you pretty much have to profess your religion in order to be a political figure. Which is weird. Most people in the world think that's just absolutely bizarre that we do that, but we do. And of course, there was a huge thing about JFK being Catholic, and about Reagan being divorced, and all of this stuff. So it's always there, right? So
Yeah.
um, I guess then when we're the other thing I get from what you're saying too is that this, especially in the military, has been a big challenge for a long time. This isn't just a Trump thing. Is that a fair to say?
Um, yes and no, right? Like, just like with
Okay.
anything, there's a little bit of nuance. So on one hand, George Washington, the conservative evangelicals are right. George Washington set up 1775, the Chaplain Corps.
Okay. Yeah.
He was an Anglican Christian who probably drifted more into deism as he got
Yeah.
older, but we know that he was raised in the
The high church.
high
Yeah.
church. He also knows how important, I mean, just from all of that war is with religion and military history. He's a smart
Uh-huh.
man. So, and he cares. So he,
Yeah.
he cares about his men at the time. There were a
And
few
needing
women
to motivate
soldiers,
them. Yeah.
and really, and this is over and over in DoD reports and George Washington correspondence to modern day DoD reports.
Yeah.
So much of the Chaplain Corps was to handle alcoholism,
Oh.
uh, and morality, engaging in prostitution. Like,
Uh-huh.
it was, you have a bunch of young boys, especially. I mean, yeah, you have grown men in high
Yeah,
ranks, but you have
sure.
a young boys with guns, all hyped up on war and adrenaline.
Yeah.
George Washington needed someone to calm them down,
Oh.
to
Mm-hmm.
to have some structure. He also believed in the faith. He believes how that is a critical thing for, if you ask someone to die, you should, risk their
Yeah,
life. You
yeah, they have
should
to believe
provide
in it,
that.
right? Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of like very functional reasons why we have the chaplain corps.
Uh-huh.
And again, this was before, we didn't have secular recovery in 1775. We didn't have PTSD therapy. We
Yeah.
didn't know. So like the Bible, trusting God and Jesus and your chaplain was it. That was mental health care in
Yeah.
1775.
Yep.
So now we know a bit more about addiction recovery.
Yeah.
We know a bit more about PTSD. We're also, yes, in 1775, the Chaplain Corps was very much a Christian. It was like they only had Christian pastors, really.
Yeah.
The Lincoln didn't commission a Jewish chaplain until the Civil War,
Uh-huh.
but that Jewish chaplain
Interesting.
was not
Yeah.
recognized for another 60 or 75
Really?
years, which was
Wow.
interesting. There were a few black chaplains
Mm-hmm.
that served for the Union. Um, we know that some other things to consider when thinking about military chaplaincy is there weren't, how do I want to say this? There was a Southern Baptist chaplain who was
Mm-hmm.
Native American. So we've had a Native
Oh,
American
okay.
chaplain,
Yep.
but they were not an indigenous faith. Indigenous faiths
Yes.
were criminalized until,
Uh-huh.
as you know, the late
Yes. All right.
70s.
Yeah. They tried to
So
stamp it out. Yeah.
So indigenous faiths were not even legally allowed to be practiced in the military, despite indigenous people serving in all of our wars,
Mm-hmm.
and all of our battles. So yeah, weirdness there, right?
Yeah.
We had an all-Christian Protestant chaplain corps until Civil War. And then we start getting Civil War is when we start. I need to go back and pulling up my notes right now so I don't go down the
Oh.
dates. But but then we start getting into Latter-day Saints,
Oh,
Jews,
okay. Mm-hmm.
Catholics. Things start thawing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but strangely enough, Pastor Rob, the military has historically been a bit more progressive than the
Yeah.
rest of the government. It was segregated long
R
before school segregations because it had to be. The
yeah.
draft brought in people from all different
Right.
ethnicities and
Yeah.
beliefs and sexualities.
Well, that was
And
true because when you're trying to pull soldiers in and use them, you have to open the net. You have to make it broad enough. The American Revolution, they brought in people that were not
yeah.
the normative, right? And they've done that for all wars. Yes. So,
And since the military has been more inclusive of different faith chaplains practicing different faiths, it has taken and it is, how do I want to say this? When they established the chaplain corps, it was controversial. James
oh,
Madison and George
really?
Washington got into it
Huh.
because James Madison and Jefferson were so separation of church and
They were
state,
so
so
worried about
hard
it.
line about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And military chaplaincy is inherently tax-paid clergy.
Yes. Yeah.
That's messy,
Interesting. Yeah, it
right? Now
is. Yeah.
that is the intersection of church and state. You now have tax-paid clergy.
Yeah.
And so it was very controversial at the time. There was another bill that was going on in the 1780s by Patrick Henry, who was a Christian in Virginia.
Uh-huh.
And he was concerned, and again, very
Yeah.
you relatable to today. He was concerned that Christianity was dying in the United States in the colonies,
Yes.
and he wanted a tax to fund Christian organizations just to keep them
Yes.
in supremacy. Not a sect, but that's how he was getting around it. He was like, no, it's not a Christian
Yes.
sect, it's just Christianity. And we should just fund Christian organizations. And if you can't choose a Christian organization, it'll go to public education.
Oh,
And James
uh-huh.
Madison was
Yeah.
like, absolutely not. Like, we're not, that's
Yeah.
not what we're doing. Like,
That's why
start a
we have
nonprofit.
Patrick Henry College today,
Right.
because because they want
Um,
that back, right?
yes.
Interesting.
And so Patrick Henry's bill was what triggered James Madison to write his big
Ah,
Trustees on separation of church and state. He did not call it that at the time. The phrasing was
uh-huh,
freedom of
uh-huh.
conscience.
Yep.
Separation of church and state. And I'll mention this. Thomas Jefferson wrote that in a letter to the Danbury Baptist because
Uh-huh.
they were concerned that a Puritan Congregationalist political leadership had too much political power.
Yes.
So, so that's an interesting bit, but he actually stole that from a British philosopher.
Uh-huh.
Jefferson did not coin separation of church and state.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
actually something that the British were already talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Madison writes this big treatise, and all of this moving different parts, all of this, and then in the middle, George Washington is like, yeah, the Chaplain Corps, Congressional Faith Church, and
Yeah.
they're like, what? No, and he's like, no, it's not, and they're like, and this is where they start to learn, like, oh, this is going to be tricky. This is going to be
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Since the
we
very
can't.
beginning. Yeah.
Right, we can't not have, and then on the other side, someone else is like, I think every time we open and end Congress, we should have a congressional chaplain.
Yes. Right.
And at this point, Madison is like, oh my God, like, why am I here? Like,
Well, I
like,
mean,
focus.
and isn't it ironic that because Madison was one of the most religious of the founding fathers, so
Oh yeah.
but I guess he saw the danger, right, of this politicization of
Mhm.
religion maybe more clearly than others. So, so I
Absolutely.
wanted to, moving from that the trouble and the issues from that era. I mean, now we are in an era where we're revisiting all of this separation
Mhm.
of church and state with Pete Hegseth, and
Yeah.
he's such a an avatar or
Mhm.
an example of the challenge that we're having. So I wanted to kind of like have you explain his role, his background. Why does he matter so much today when it comes to chaplaincy and the role of the military in religion?
So, absolutely great question. So Hegseth, for those who've never heard of the name, wow, do I envy you. He is our Secretary of what we have now renamed into the Department of War. Um,
Uh,
it was Department of Defense, and then there was a campaign on no more wars, and then we changed it to the Department of War. So you just work that math out. But he was originally I've read his books in order to get
Uh-huh.
inside and to better understand him. Pete
You're reading
Hegseth
them so we
served.
don't have to.
Yes, in fact, I did. I
Thank you for
posted
that.
recently. I posted recently. I said I'm reading this Hegseth book for my own book, and if my book flops, I'm gonna be mad at y'all.
Because you made me do it.
I did all this research. This book better not flop.
Yeah.
Spent a whole weekend in Pete Hegseth's head.
Ugh.
But yeah, so Pete Hegseth, he's got three books. One is called American Crusade,
Mm.
um, and where he expands on how he feels as a Christian, that Christianity is weakening, morality is weakening in the United States,
Okay.
and that it is because of the secular satanic left that
Of
hates God
course.
and I mean, I could go on. I mean, it's a completely different ideology. He rejects, he says Islam is like the most evangelical, most dangerous religion in the world.
Hmm.
Um, he talks about, oh, a good one. He absolutely rejects environmentalism, denies climate change
Right.
science,
Yeah.
says that basically if we want, like, capitalism is a good thing for the environment. I, I, I mean, like, reaching. I'm like, woo. Um, and but those are just some of his views on other social things. The big thing
Uh-huh.
is that he is deeply committed to his faith. He did serve in the American military, I believe in the National Guard, Army National Guard.
Hmm.
Um, and he attended Princeton and Harvard.
Hmm.
So he is an educated person, particularly on the left. A lot of
Yeah.
folks think he's just some angry MAGA
Yeah.
military person, and
Yeah.
he's
No,
not.
he's yeah.
He's not just some army grunt. has served in Guantanamo Bay and Afghanistan, Iraq.
Hmm.
Um, and for that, he has had experiences seeing radical Islam,
Hmm.
especially overseas in the Middle East. And then so that's where he is getting his frame of reference. I don't deny the existence of radical Islam. I don't deny the evangelism
Yeah.
of some Islamic sects. Um, I think it was a lot of pot calling the kettle black in terms
Yeah.
of how he then turns around and calls his family. He says that Jesus and God are the most important things to him, that he wants, that he has had, I think he has had 7 children, and he
Uh-huh.
wants to, as part of him going forth and multiplying and creating Christian crusaders. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of like, look at what they're doing. And I'm like, what are you literally like, so, but again, that's typical with
So
conservative
for him,
religious.
it's not really about intelligence or credentials. It's more about character. Is that a good way to
Y-
describe the
Yeah,
challenge with him?
yes, and he was originally not a Trumper, a MAGA. He
Mm.
spoke out against them a lot, and I think that's what this book is trying to say is his conversion. He actually, he
Oh.
calls it his Damascus moment.
Oh.
Uh, he woke
Oh
up and
boy.
realized that Trump actually was the real deal, is
Oh
his
gosh.
term, um, and so that's what it sounds like is he's trying to talk to the folks who haven't converted over,
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
and I will be honest with you, it's a zealous, intense, um, I mean, and I'm saying this as someone who has read, the New Testament, the Bible as my
Uh-huh.
own ministry. Like it does give me like Paul vibes and like the zealot, like let's
Oh,
go and like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
like
He's an admirer for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and certainly, admire and respect Paul. I have some questions, but like there is a lot of a lot of passion behind it, and a lot of single-mindedness, a lot of narrowness.
Hmm.
Um, he has gone on Fox News. He was a regular on their Fox and Friends and would talk about how
Hmm.
women should not be in the military.
Yeah.
Um, and he did dial it back when it got closer to him being sworn in as Department of War.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, "Oh no, no, no! I just meant combat." And it's like, no, that
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
um, and and that's exactly his thing. He wants America to be Christian. He acknowledges a separation of church and state, like, but also it's kind of everything that's coming down here. I acknowledge a separation of church and state, but I want to be able to say and do things that are discriminatory because it's free
Yeah,
speech
right.
and I'm religious um it's just
Is he fully bought into Doug Wilson's worldview, or is he different than that?
it
Because
does sound a bit. He didn't go specifically into any one
okay,
theology, but he does emphasize that men, especially in his transgender chapter or his
yeah.
genderism
Oh,
chapter,
okay.
he does talk about how he is raising boys to be masculine men to be
Yes,
warriors for
that's a
God.
big thing
So,
for him. Yeah, yeah.
um,
So he's definitely a dominionist. Is
oh
that?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. And also has some ties. It just um the other thing too that's concerning, if American Crusade is all about his vision for a Christian America and how we need to be, the Islamic threat is going to take us over and we need the Christian military
Uh-huh.
to save the United States and the free world. He's also um got very much involved in Turning Point and
Oh, yes.
creating a pipeline.
Yes, Charlie Kirk's organization. Yeah.
Correct. And again, which I think is actually it's fusing a lot of ideologies. It's a bit Mark Driscoll with the militant
Yeah.
war theology. It's got that Charlie Kirk civic duty component and
Yeah.
debate and Christian, and then it's got but ultimately they're wanting a military pipeline.
Hmm.
Um, and having it be a Christian influence. This has been at work. This is a bit bigger than Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is just the perfect person to bring it all
Uh-huh.
together.
Yeah,
But
I think Trump really is very happy with him, you
oh
know.
yeah,
Yeah, because he fits the bill, right? And
oh my God, and yeah, and
he
absolutely, Trump is
he's got the right
happy.
tattoos on his body.
Mhm. Yeah, and like whether or not Trump likes him, which is important, yes, but the Heritage Foundation loves him.
Oh.
They
Huh.
and these Christian coalition, religious right, he is
Uh-huh.
very much a part of the Turning Point Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
As you were saying, Fox News acolytes.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, he is full Christian. I mean, full Christian. We're going to have Christian prayer breakfasts put on by the Department of Defense.
Yes.
We're going to use the official Department of Defense social media account to repost Christian pastors and their views on
Mm-hmm.
women's
Mm-hmm.
suffrage. Um, even, and I was talking about this last night, even the act of rounding up trans folks in the military who have 10, 15 years of
Mm-hmm.
service and forcing them into retirement, like that is all Christian. But I mean, you could
Yeah.
maybe make the argument that they would like, from this date on, like they're
Yeah.
gonna kick people out or they're not gonna accept it or something. But the rounding up specifically is very
Yeah.
theatric. Um, and what else can I show you? Yeah, he cut Dakowitz, which has been the main arm for women's recruitment into the
Oh.
military
Mm-hmm.
since the 70s. Dakowitz has been a very core piece in training women, recruiting women, any sort of harassment trainings. They've just been a core piece and cut that immediately. Um, and and then also as well as dismissed several high-ranking officials of color.
Uh-huh.
So
Well,
we're
and he
seeing
seems
it.
to think that the chaplain corps is a means for him to spread his vision through the military. I saw a Facebook video of him or a video of him talk, you know, in a speech. It's Christian. He seems to. I don't know if he says it explicitly, but he doesn't seem to think that you should be a chaplain if you're not a Christian or the idea of humanist chaplains or Muslim chaplains or Buddhist chaplains probably doesn't fit his views. Is that
No, and
true?
that's yes, so he certainly does not like humanism. That is for sure. Doesn't like Norse
Uh-huh.
paganism. I mean, he's a conservative evangelical, so like
Yeah.
nobody is Christian but him.
Yes.
So but so on that regard, yes. Some other concerns, as I mentioned early, is we have also just as yes, faith, spirituality will always be integral to the human being, to the human experience.
Uh-huh.
And we also know more. We know that alcoholism is, yes, a spiritual, has a
Yeah.
spiritual component, but it also has other mental health components that might need
Hmm.
psychiatrics or might need some intensive counseling on a trauma that a pastor or a chaplain may not be able to provide. So what's happened in the last, 50 some odd year, really since Vietnam, has been this emphasis on mental health, PTSD,
Yes.
alcoholism, um, pornography, just different ways that folks handle the trauma that they see in the military. And as part of the continuum of care, you'll be recommended to a chaplain. The
Well, in
chaplain,
fact, he even says explicitly, a chaplain is not a therapist, is not your therapist. And I was wondering, but does is he saying then there should be no counseling or therapy or anything like that in the military, or is he just saying
yeah,
it,
well,
it doesn't
it's an
exist? Or
interesting. Right. That they think psychotherapy yeah, it's psychobabble. Like it's not like if you just read the one true word, you would be all
Okay.
your needs would be addressed. That all of what has come out about mental health and this language and our research on it is new age or modern or sort of it's just it comes from an anti-intellectual argument. You don't need this research. This book has the answers.
Okay. And that's basically what he's saying then.
He's framing it that way. He's not going to not support mental health, like that's still on the table, but he wants to emphasize salvation and conversion as a form of caregiving.
Uh-huh.
And so proselytizing, like if we can
Yeah.
just save and baptize enough people, if we can have enough Bible studies, things
Then all
like
our
that.
problems will be solved. Yes.
The other problem is that chaplains, so there is a continuum of care. Chaplains um, have what's called the provide or provide for clause, meaning if the
Uh-huh.
chaplain does not share the same faith or cannot provide spiritual caregiving
Uh-huh.
for some theological reason, they are obligated to reason like to find someone else who will provide it.
Uh-huh.
So like
Yeah.
if you're a Catholic priest and someone comes to you for help on the Jewish theater or something, like you would call
Yeah. Yeah.
a rabbi. Sadar. What else? So things like that. That is part of it. It is also being used by chaplains as a way to not minister to folks. In a lot
Uh-huh.
of ways, I see how it protects. Like if someone came to me and they said, I am Muslim and I
Uh-huh.
would need to go find someone to do that. For a lot of reasons, that's good that I can't be compelled to work with another faith. On the other hand, what that looks like is certain chaplains not believing that queer folk should be in the military.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It looks like not ministering to certain people
Mm-hmm.
because they have a certain belief.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes, well, hold on. Like, we can't coerce or compel chaplains to serve a faith because it could be harmful. And then also, it's weird to take the stance that the chaplain could be harmed. Like, oh
Yeah.
no, I that puts me and I understand that I get the argument, but it's wild to we have a voluntary military, right?
Yeah.
It is a secular government, and it strikes me as strange to voluntarily sign up for the military in a secular government in a multi-faith workforce and then get mad when there's
Yeah.
multi-faith. Like,
Right.
just start a
Right.
church, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't come into your congregation and I'm like,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
why don't you have women here? Like that, but you now work for the government. We're now government ministers. We have to get along. And we're seeing that in the chaplain corps too. We're seeing these Christian nationalist chaplains.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not provide professional support for
Yeah.
female, queer, or non-Christian
Right. Right.
chaplains
Right.
because to do so would mean that they were validating
Yes.
us, our existence, our authority, our call, whatever you want to word that, and that's against them.
And this is part of that anti-empathy campaign, right? That the sin of empathy and this idea that because when you're doing chaplaincy or learning chaplaincy, you hear about empathy and empathic breaks all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it just it's is it a I think I asked you this before. Is this part of the deprofessionalization of chaplaincy in a way? Or what do you how would you describe that? What is Christian nationalism doing to the profession of chaplaincy?
So there's so many different, that's a great call. Um, Specifically in military chaplaincy and Christian nationalism, they are producing high number, like Liberty University for one,
Uh-huh.
in Virginia. Another one, Oral Roberts,
Yeah.
is in Oklahoma. There's a couple others I can think of, but they're all they have, I mean, they're cranking out thousands of military related chaplains every year that will
Really?
go into, oh yeah. Liberty University has a whole military chaplain program,
Huh.
like in grad school, if you're going
Oh,
through
okay.
your MDiv. Um, They have lots of connections with military people coming in and speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So it is all part, it's built into the theology the whole time. Um, they have all these different connections, the Southern Baptists. And so what happens is the United States military is the largest employer on earth, I think roughly 2.1 million people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most diverse workforce on
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah.
And while, yes, dominant white and male,
Yeah.
still it brings out, because of the benefits, it brings out so many people from
Yeah.
different walks of life.
Right.
Um, it's interesting how it's it's so diverse. Like it's
Right.
truly
Yeah.
like you're like there's a lot of diversity here. And the hard thing about the military, and this is not just United States, but it's for any military, is that you need it to be uniform, right? You
Mm-hmm.
need this is war. You need people to follow commands and not question things because like
Yeah.
we are now
Yeah.
in chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to argue over ideology in war. Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to say it, um, but faith is the one thing you cannot make uniform. You just can't. And
Mm-hmm.
so because we have a voluntary workforce, voluntary military, secular government, um, we have to find ways that people who voluntarily serve our military and swear an oath to put their lives on the line for our country, whatever theologically motivates them to do that, they should have that be respected, cared
Mm-hmm.
for, and within reason, so long as it doesn't, jeopardize any, we have reasonable guidelines, but and Hexeth is looking to do away with a lot of those. Like
Yeah.
and whether it's turbans or yarmulkes in certain situations,
Yeah.
medical thing. It's there's he wants a uniform military and wants Christian evangelism, wants proselytizing, wants a heavy focus, loves the crusades, loves the idea
Yeah.
of everyone getting together and praying and going to
Yeah.
church and then going and fighting a war together. That
Yeah.
would be his
Yeah.
vision. It that's simply I mean, we will talk about the Treaty of Friendship, which started by George Washington, that was finally ended with Treaty of Tripoli. It kind of became that with
Uh-huh.
John Adams. And that's Article 11. It says the United States is not a Christian nation and therefore has
Uh-huh.
no religious enemies or allies because
Uh-huh.
of it. We have, funny enough, it was with Tripoli in northern Africa. So it was like we
Oh,
have no
uh-huh.
beef. We have no beef with the Muslims.
Right.
And I was like, do we know that?
Yeah.
um, but it's so. I understand where he's coming from as a Christian that, yeah, like I understand fighting for your beliefs and that there are
Mm-hmm.
people that do not believe in that do, like in other faiths, don't want me to practice mine. I understand that defensive posturing, especially as an international relations major,
Mm-hmm.
but his passion and zeal for it, he is not calm, cool, collected as a
No,
military
definitely
leader.
not.
His passion and his
Not very
zeal,
open-minded either.
yes, are are a cause for concern because while I understand where he's coming from, I'm like, if you keep if left unchecked, if you're supported by all these different groups, you're going to get us into a religious war. You want us to.
Yeah.
You want us to be in a
Yeah, yeah.
crusade.
Well, I was going to ask you about that too. And is is this part of that accelerationist ideal of bringing about the end times? And I know that's so important for a lot of Christian groups, but is that Hegseth's philosophy too? And is
He
that kind of where
hasn't
he's going?
he hasn't mentioned that in this book. This was
Okay.
but he does talk about he very positively talks about Israel. Um
Yeah.
and how all this book that I'm reading was in 2020, so it was before October 7th and everything that's
Yeah.
happened
Yeah.
since. But um, he's very much like pro-Israel. They are the ones in control there. Like they are
Yeah.
who we work with. I mean, like So as far I can probably just knowing his faith
Yeah.
background that he's accelerationist, he just
Yeah. Well, it's like Mike
he said
Pompeo
everything
was
else.
Mike Pompeo was very accelerationist, and Mike Pompeo is a Presbyterian Church in America elder, and Hegseth's church is adjacent to that, so I just wonder if they're the same. It seems like they probably are, and I guess
Yeah.
to kind of wrap up a little bit, I was thinking, what are your feelings after you've done all this research? You're looking forward to your book and seeing what you've learned. And are you hopeful? Are you do you is there a way out of this? Is chaplaincy going to be forever changed because of this? How do you what's the future look like to you now after you've done all of this work?
It's funny. Everything. I know all too well how the left is fragmented and has like, they're like fighting with one another, but um the right, particularly the religious right, are fragmenting too.
Yeah.
Um, yes, for anyone like who's been concerned, it is a sigh of relief, but someone else's separation or fragmenting doesn't unite us anymore. So I really
Yeah.
want us to be clear that we need to be better about picking our own battles amongst each other.
Yeah.
Um, for one, and really making earnest attempts to build coalition to find the things that matter to us, and build these coalitions much like they have, knowing
Uh-huh.
full well that the coalition will eventually fragment because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But really coming together, and the points that there is, I am seeing a lot of antagonism towards faith online that's been growing, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a
In general.
response,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is a response to people like Pete Hegseth,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so for particularly progressive Christians,
Mm-hmm.
study the word, get really clear and
Yeah.
on what the text does and does not say. Um, be in close communication with, your community, because you're going to need the support. Do not go at this
Yeah.
alone. And then finally, what did I say? I said come together more often, study
Yeah.
your word,
Yeah.
but really start being a good example. I think James Tallarico is fantastic. Like
Yeah. I
that's a
think that's
really
wonderful.
great,
That's a good thing. Yeah.
like let's like look at him for our
Yeah.
wording or our rhetoric as we navigate, because like it's very, we know who our sides are. We know.
Well,
Like,
and there's mythology or this belief in evangelical world that we're going away. Yep.
right,
That mainline Christians and progressive Christians are going away. Um, no, we're not going away.
right,
But so
right.
yeah, I just
No,
want everybody to realize that no, we're not going away.
no, and it'll just keep changing and evolving, and who's to say how things will change? But um, because what's interesting is like so many people don't like this administration and MAGA and the
Yeah.
religious right, but we also don't have agreed solutions.
Yeah.
So right now we need to, what are some basic tenets that we can all rally behind? What are some things that we can just get across?
Maybe
Um,
democracy.
yeah, let's just democracy. Let's just democracy. How about not recreating, Iraq conditions
Right.
in Venezuela? But oh yeah, today was awesome. Thank you for hanging out with me.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I love our conversations and really look forward to hearing more from you. You're on TikTok a lot, and I see you there, and I always get a big smile on my face when your face pops up there. So can you tell us a little bit about where to find you?
Absolutely. Howdy folks, sorry. I was about to do my my little blurb. But yes, I am available. You can find me TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, my Substack, and Facebook, all of them. Follow the leader, Leighder. That's my name, Leigh Larson. And so I wanted people to know how to spell it, how
Uh-huh.
to say it. So I just put it in the handle. Follow the leader. That's my name. I talk about theology, history, politics. Sometimes I feel like it's a Pete Hegseth hate account. I don't care. My civic duty.
If you're going to choose somebody, that's a good person to choose.
That's my troll.
Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, follow me. I will be going hopefully soon. I'm working on my book, but I am
Uh-huh.
working to grow my platform and eventually do speaking tours, book tours. I want to come
Yeah.
and meet people. I do library talks around Montana about women's history.
Uh-huh.
And then at churches, I can lean more into politic talk. I can't speak politically at
Uh-huh.
libraries, but
Yeah.
churches host me and stuff like that. And I love meeting folks. So come on in.
Uh,
The water's fine.
well, I love your stuff, and I hope that more people find you, and I'm sure they will. So
Awesome.
wonderful. Well, thank you so
Well,
much, Lee.
yeah, thank
And
you.
as I always say on my podcasts, I always say people say lots of things about the Bible that aren't really there. And I just am so grateful that Lee shared her wisdom with us and her knowledge about that, and look forward to interacting with you again. Uh,
Yes.
with that, I say, God bless you.
God bless. Take care, everyone.